Welcome to the second segment of Rapture Recovery Big Book Step Study Program of Action. For this section, we're going to hit the second working page of the workbook. We're going to hit the forewords to the second edition, the third edition, and the fourth edition. Again, I want to challenge you to read this literature yourself before you listen to this. Highlight, circle, underline, any kind of relating points or Me Too moments. This is going to serve you well in your journey of recovery. Whenever you review these forwards with other people in the membership, whether it's a newcomer or someone who has been around for a long time, you're going to have some points of discussion. This is something not to be missed. In the second edition, they do a great job. They're giving us a ton of information here. They're highlighting the fellowship. They're highlighting the Oxford groups, that this community did not just come from nowhere. It actually started in the Oxford groups. The Oxford groups are discussed in great detail in other Hazelton-approved literature that we'll talk about at a later time. They talk about Dr. Silk's work and how he's an expert in alcoholism. It is important to understand his practice and understand why this doctor's letter means so much to our community. Then they highlight the fact that there's the power of one alcoholic helping another one, that they're seeing success that they've not seen in the medical community. They talk about strenuous recovery equals permanent recovery. They also highlight the fact that the book was written by 100. It's believed that 96 were men, 4 were women. We understand that men operate more in the left brain. Women operate, a lot more in the right brain. So that's why we're here. We're trying to take this left brain information, move it over to the right brain, and have a true connection of something that we can share experience, strength, and hope with other people. They also take some time to highlight the traditions here, which are very important. Early on in my journey of sobriety, I had no idea that there were traditions. Every time I seemed to have a really big problem, I called this one old timer, and she would always point out that I or someone else was breaking a tradition. This was not something that was a fellowship issue. These were outside issues. That's why it's so important for us to put our principles before personalities. So these are some grand discussion points, and I've spent a lot of my time in recovery researching this. It kind of makes it exciting a little bit to understand that there is depth and weight to everything that we're reading here. My experience here is the more I invested in the foundation of the fellowship and the big book itself, it gave me a confidence that I was sharing a message that had the depth and weight. It wasn't really my message. It was a fellowship's message, and it was God's message. The traditions just help me separate myself and understand that there is a purpose that is so much larger here. There is a spiritual program that can help people recover. People are going to need to fight at their sobriety in order to gain their sobriety. So these are great discussion points. You can come up with your own questions. You can use this list this week to call other people in the fellowship and ask them, hey, have you ever heard of the Oxford groups? Hey, what do you think about Dr. Silkworth? Hey, what do you think about this book being written by 100? I thought it was only written by 2 men, right? Or you can ask them about the traditions. You can seek out maybe this week a traditions meeting to go to. So you see how I just took these discussion points and try to apply them. How can we get this over into our 24 hours? Here are just a couple of action items. Find the traditions, read the traditions. Read the traditions. If you're having a challenging time with any one tradition, again, use that as your information to call someone else. We're trying to build your network outside of a meeting. We're trying to build your network out of a group. We're trying to build your network out of your physical location into a spiritual program. We're trying to allow God to do for us what we can't do for ourselves and connect people at a level that the world would never allow to happen. Also, it's a great time to define strenuous, okay? Because I think it's very important for us as women to deal with time management before we even start, right? What am I willing to invest in my recovery? What did I invest in my disease while I was alcoholically drinking? How much time did I spend drinking? People will tell you you're going to have to match that with sobriety. That may seem strenuous now, but God will do for you what you can't do for yourself, and He will crowd out your crap by introducing these new productive, healthy ways of coping and connecting with other people. Now we're going to go to the third edition. Now, this is us. We are celebrating the rise of women. We started with four women, and now look where we are. They have multiplied. We have got mom meetings. We have women's meetings. These are a safe place for you to go. There is a pamphlet that advises us as women to work with other women, and that's really just to safeguard our serenity. God does give us exactly what we need. If you are in a location where you cannot find a women's meeting, I highly recommend calling your intergroup office. Maybe there's a women's meeting that happens 10 miles down the road outside of your community. If you can't find a women's meeting, most large meetings have women breakout meetings on certain days. Seek those out. This is where you are going to find your tribe. Remember, God does not make hard terms. So many times in early sobriety, we're always thinking of what we're going to lose by being sober. And a lot of times we lose some toxic relationships that we were in with other women. And you are going to see, just like I have, how God is going to replace those with relationships that you would never imagine having. Why? Because you always sat in a victim state in all of your relationships, because you sat in a victim state of life. But now all of a sudden we're going to sit in a victor state. We are going to connect with women in service, and that provides a genuine connection. You are actually in a right brain activity of connecting with someone else and getting results from your actions with another human. You are going to be laying the ground for a relationship that will last. This current journey I'm in of 6 years of sobriety, I have met my best friends. I have met women that have stood by me in the hardest points of my life. I've had more hard things happen to me in sobriety than I did before I got here. And these women are an army of angels. God uses them. God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. And He tells us today, right here, right now, you are not alone. And not only does He tell us you are not alone, He will show you that you are not alone. Women will love you until you love yourself. And then they will go around and tell all kinds of funny stories about you in early sobriety. And it is hilarious. It's amazing. It's a connecting moment. It's nothing to get upset about. It's something to actually celebrate. In the fourth edition, the main discussion here is technology. Because this book was written so many years ago, technology was not at the level that it is today. So this is how God allowed my program to reach beyond my meetings. This is how I found the Joe and Charlie meetings. This is how I found Bill Barefoot meetings. There was another meeting they called themselves Simple Action. They did speaker meetings on the steps in order, and they recorded it. And so when I went on vacation, I could download these and literally almost get through a whole 12-step study of speaker meetings on one vacation. This is God doing for me what I can't do for myself. It is allowing Him to meet me exactly where I am in every minute of my life, everywhere in my life. So a good thing to do is to discuss with other women in your program today good women speaker meetings, good meetings that have some consistency on YouTube, good apps that have consistent 12-step studies. So instead of just dialing into a random YouTube meeting every single week because you can't actually physically make it to a meeting, why don't you get the Joe and Charlie app and actually go down, or like you're doing this one right now that I don't even realize that we're creating. But, why don't you invest in, I think the Joe and Charlie app that I found did have a cost of, at the time, $3.99. But it was a one-time charge, and it allowed me to keep up with what meetings I was listening to when. And the app actually, you can read the meetings as well. So if I was in a situation where I could not listen to a meeting because I was in a car with 4 people, then I could actually read a meeting, and I could highlight things. I could take notes in my big book at a very calm in a very calm manner. And God was doing for me what I can't do for myself, because literature-based meetings will add experience, strength, and hope that will ignite your personal experience, strength, and hope. There are also, the action item here is find sobriety apps. There are a lot of fun sobriety apps that will keep track of how many days you have sober. You don't know. You may not relapse one day because you don't want that number to change. They'll have your On Awakening, so you don't even have to go find your big book. You can actually have On Awakening read to you. They'll have your daily reflections. You can get a digital copy of the big book on your phone. So no matter what meeting you go to, where you are, when someone in the fellowship calls you and they're having a problem and God gives you a page number, He gives you a piece of literature, He gives you a story, you have it right there on your phone. You can screenshot it. You can send it to them through text. This is God doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves. We can see with technology and where it's gone, how God is leveling up a sobriety journey that will meet anyone, anywhere they are. And it also takes the fellowship and the big book out of the God spot. It allows God to activate in a digital realm, because we don't want to put God-sized expectations on people, places, and things. And so all of a sudden, my excuses are getting really little when I think I don't have time for a meeting, yet I can pick up my phone, and instead of looking at Facebook for 20 minutes, I can listen to a Joe and Charlie meeting. So I can actually do something productive. I'm building up my confidence in my program, because remember, God is trying to arm me to be a sober, spiritual soldier. Well, in order to do that, I need to get the program of recovery within me, and I also need to get it outside of that meeting. I need to get it into my home. How are we going to do this? We're going to use these apps. We're going to find meetings that are women-based meetings, because they're going to be safe meetings. We're going to find meetings that we have Me Too moments in. We're going to find meetings where we look for similarities instead of differences. And God is doing for us what we can't do for ourselves. So these 3 forewords to the edition have a lot of information in them. They've given you a lot of tools that you can research. You can reach out to other people in the fellowship program. You can look for other literature that highlight any specific items that you're further interested in. Okay, thanks for listening.